Jean-Claude Van Damme, the immortal muscles from Brussels. The man who once made the world hold its breath. Frank Dux in Bloodsport. Kurt Sloan in Kickboxer, the legendary twins in Double Impact. He wasn't only an action star, he was a phenomenon, a whirlwind of precision and power. A living monument from Hollywood's golden era of martial arts cinema. His splits seemed to ignore anatomy. His blistering kicks and unwavering stare etched themselves into the memories of millions throughout the 80s and 90s, turning his name into an undying emblem. But beyond the lights and roaring ovations lay wounds that never fully closed. 5 broken marriages, betrayals that shattered his trust, an abyss of addiction that nearly ended him, scandals that dragged his pride through the mud, and a darkness that still shadows his nights. Now, at 63, Van Damme no longer fights for glory. He faces a chapter harsher than any he played on screen. A warrior carrying scars that refuse to heal, haunted by pains no spotlight can cover. And behind those eyes are secrets long kept. What hurt still burns in silence. The answers are tragic, haunting, unforgettable. If you still admire the legend who conquered the world, hit like now. A tribute to a fighter whose greatest battles weren't on screen, but in life itself. Behind the man whose kicks could seem to shatter mountains lived a fragile spirit, waging quiet wars against weakness, fear, and the cruel echo of laughter that left invisible scars. Jean-Claude Camille Francois Van Varenberg, later immortalized as Jean-Claude Van Damme, was born on October 18, 1960, in Berm-Santoget, a quiet commune near Brussels. His father, an accountant, kept order with numbers. His mother, Liliana, a florist, filled their modest home with color. His sister Veronique was his closest companion. On the surface, life looked ordinary, but the mirror told a harsher story. A skinny boy with thick glasses, mocked as a puny for eyes, a dreamer trapped in a body too frail to carry his dreams. At 11, he would later recall, he stared at his reflection and felt the sting of humiliation, vowing to rewrite his own ending. His first battles weren't in a ring, but inside, against ridicule, against doubt, against the crushing silence heavier than words. Sensing the storm within, his father enrolled him at the Centre National de Karate in Excel under Master Claude Guts. For 4 brutal years, Jean-Claude drilled until discipline became his second skin. At 18, he earned a black belt in Shotokan Karate and joined Belgium's national team, learning how to turn shame into strength and fear into focus. But strength alone wasn't enough. Defying mockery, he chose ballet. 5 relentless years at the bar that forged balance, grace, and endurance beyond imagination. Ballet is the hardest, he would say years later. If you can survive a ballet workout, you can survive anything. To complete the transformation, he turned to bodybuilding, reshaping the fragile boy into a figure of steel. In 1978, the world noticed when he claimed the title of Mr. Belgium, yet the trophies mattered less than what he had won inside. Belief. Around the age of 12, one restless night, he slipped into a church and whispered 3 impossible wishes: to save the world, to protect nature, and to become a movie star. Naive perhaps, but to a lonely boy desperate for light, they were lifelines. These early struggles, painful, cruel, yet strangely beautiful, etched themselves into his soul, preparing him for a destiny larger than he imagined. From a small Belgian parish to the unforgiving mirrors of a dance studio, from bruised pride to black belt discipline, Jean-Claude Van Damme was already rehearsing for the greatest fight of his life. Not against an on-screen enemy, but against the darkness within and the world's brutal certainty that he would never be enough. He left Belgium with muscles forged by karate, ballet, and bodybuilding. But all that strength couldn't shield him from what awaited in America. Jean-Claude Van Damme, carrying only $3,000, a broken accent, and a dream bigger than his body, landed in the United States in 1982 with his friend Michelle. Hollywood was a galaxy away, and he was just another anonymous immigrant staring at a city that didn't care if he lived or died. Nights found him curled in the back seat of a beat-up car, upholstery torn, windows fogged with his breath, his stomach twisting so violently with hunger that sleep became impossible. He later confessed he sometimes stole food, an apple here, a sandwich there. Not out of defiance, but out of desperation, the kind that gnaws at your bones until you feel hollow. Days blurred into weeks of pounding the pavement, knocking on studio doors only to have them slam shut. Some said it was more than 100 auditions, each ending the same way. A polite smile, a shake of the head, or worse, laughter at the way his tongue stumbled over English. Every rejection cut deep, and the silence of the telephone afterward wasn't merely quiet. It was a verdict that he might never belong. Yet, each morning, even on an empty stomach, he stretched, trained, and pushed into splits until pain screamed through his legs. All the time, I believed in my head that my dream would happen. Every day, I said, thank you in advance for my success. He later admitted it was madness to believe, but belief was all he had. In Belgium, he had been mocked as a puny for eyes. In America, he was dismissed as just another foreigner. Between those humiliations, he found one constant: the discipline of his body, the only language he spoke fluently. To survive, he took any work he could find, delivering pizzas, laying parquet floors, driving limousines, even bouncing at Chuck Norris's bar, Woody's War. The irony stung, protecting strangers at night while dreaming of fighting movie villains. Still, he kept showing up, offering his fists and his smile, convinced someone would notice. In 1984, he flickered across the screen in Brecken, a background dancer whose splits most viewers missed. That same year, he joined Chuck Norris's stunt team in Missing in Action, a job that paid little, but proved he could bleed for the camera. The break didn't come easy. Only in 1986 did he finally land a role with a face and a name, playing the Russian villain Ivan in No Retreat, No Surrender. It was a small, low-budget film, but the victory tasted like sunlight after years of rain. He was no longer a hungry boy in a car. He was on screen. These years weren't glamorous. They were brutal. Poverty, humiliation, the loneliness of exile. Those were his sparring partners. But from that grind emerged the grit that would make him the muscles from Brussels. Every rejection was a wound. Every night in that car, a scar, each one stitched into the fabric of a legend in the making. He had once curled up in a back seat, shivering through nights with nothing but hunger, stealing scraps to quiet the storm, walking out of casting rooms after being mocked for his accent. Over 100 humiliating rejections told him he'd never belong. And yet, in 1988, the world finally looked his way. The boy who once knelt trembling in a Belgian church, whispering 3 impossible wishes, watched one explode into reality. Bloodsport hit theaters, and with it, Jean-Claude Van Damme erupted into legend. On screen, he was Frank Dux fighting in a hidden tournament. But in truth, he was fighting for every cold night, every slammed door, every insult that made him invisible, made for just $1, $5 million. The film became a global sensation, and The Immigrant with Broken English became action cinema's latest obsession. Later, he would confess, when Bloodsport came out, I cried because the little boy in Belgium was finally seen. The applause thundered, the lights blinded, and for the first time, he was no longer a ghost. Success didn't glide in. It crashed like a wave. Kickboxer turned a modest budget into a $50 million triumph, searing forever the image of that tipsy dance exploding into a split kick. A cascade followed. Lionheart, Death Warrant, each proving he wasn't a passing novelty. Double Impact, doubled the myth. Van Damme against Van Damme, a dazzling storm of grace and grit. Then Universal Soldier brought him face to face with Dolph Lundgren, a brutal clash that thundered past 100 million and crowned him a global phenomenon. And then came Time Cop, The Summit, more than $100 million at the box office. Critics quieted as Max Walker revealed a man who could break hearts as easily as he broke bones. For a moment, the world glimpsed the fragile dreamer behind the fighter. Even video games bowed to his aura. Mortal Kombat's Johnny Cage was inspired by his swagger and initials. Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't just starring in Hollywood, he was reshaping it. Yet the cruelty seeped through the glamour. The dream that lifted him from hunger and humiliation now chained him in golden shackles. Later, Van Damme admitted with weary honesty, I was working too much, flying from set to set, exhausted. I couldn't see my family. Stardom had saved him once, but now it devoured him piece by piece. The schedule left him bruised before the next camera even rolled. City after city blurred into one endless set. Applause louder than his own heartbeat. At home, the cheers of millions couldn't fill the silence at the dinner table. His marriages strained. His children felt the absence. On sets, whispers grew. Late arrivals, nights blurring with champagne. The image of a man running from a fatigue nobody could bear. The salvation that lifted him from a freezing car seat now pressed on his shoulders without mercy. He had climbed the mountain he prayed for as a trembling boy. But every mountain casts a shadow, and in that shadow, darker battles waited. Fights no choreography could script, no spotlight could soften, no applause could help him win. Perhaps the cruelest battles live in the heart. In 1980, at just 20 years old, he married Maria Rodriguez, a woman